This video will cover the Diplomatic Security Service. I'm Nicholas, and you're watching the Law Enforcement Agency Information Channel. The Diplomatic Security Service, or DSS for short, is a civilian-staffed investigative United States federal law enforcement agency that falls under the Bureau of Diplomatic Security, or DS for short, which falls under the U.S. Department of State, or DOS for short. The Diplomatic Security Service is responsible for protecting diplomatic officials, activities, and missions, both domestically and foreignly. They protect multiple diplomats. However, their main and most prominent focus is on protecting important diplomats such as the Secretary of State, who I believe is the chief diplomat for the United States. I'm pretty sure that is, but anyways, and the ambassador for the United Nations. Actually, my mom actually worked in the United Nations for a while. She worked in the United Nations IOM, or United Nations Migration Agency. She worked there for a while. She doesn't work there anymore. She runs a refugee nonprofit right now, but she used to work there. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. They protect important diplomatic officials, such as that. They provide 24/7 security to such officials. This includes protecting them at important special events, such as diplomatic conferences and speeches, especially during such, because that is where threats can oppose. Speaking of threats, they actually are, they are the primary agency for investigating threats against diplomats. Any threat found towards a diplomat is investigated by the Diplomatic Security Service. They are responsible for deterring those threats. Again, while they don't exactly report to diplomats, they often do provide information to diplomats who are relevant to threats. So if there is a threat towards a diplomat, even though they don't report to that diplomat, they often do for the security of the diplomat, which they are responsible for. Additionally, they are also responsible for conducting counterintelligence and counterterrorism operations. The main point of conducting those operations is to support and secure diplomatic missions and operations and activities. By conducting those operations, they also investigate passport and visa fraud. Again, because they fall under the Department of State, that would be one of their main missions. In fact, when they were first founded, that was their main mission. Similar to the Secret Service, actually. Both the Diplomatic Security Service and the Secret Service were founded on the basis of investigating types of fraud, and eventually evolved to also protecting important officials. I'll cover my computer must shut up there. They are the Diplomatic Security Service and the Secret Service are two very similar agencies. I will compare them later. I'm getting a bit sidetracked now. That's actually pretty much it for their main responsibilities. And In 1916, Secretary of State Robert Lansing, along with the President's approval, established the Bureau of Secret Intelligence, which would eventually be known today as the Diplomatic Security Service. Robert Lansing founded the Bureau of Secret Intelligence as a task force between the FBI, U.S. Postal Inspection Service, Secret Service, and Army Intelligence Division, designed to combat intelligence threats such as espionage, which were a big threat to the U.S. federal government since this was the time of the First World War. It was one of the few civilian staffed counterintelligence agencies at the time. It was especially unique because it was one of the few civilian staffed. It was one of the few agencies at the time, counterintelligence agencies at the time, that actually got the direct approval and funding of the president. So that really made it unique. Again, it was also unique because of its responsibilities, but especially because of its direct funding from the president. Again, this was before the time of the CIA. It really set the foundation for the CIA. A lot of the activities you see the CIA conducting today were based on the founding of were based on the founding of early intelligence agencies such as the Bureau of Secret Intelligence and others. Again, it was a task force between the FBI, U.S. Secret Service. Sorry, my computer must shut off there. U.S. Postal Inspection Service and whatchamacallit, sorry, and Army Intelligence Division. There weren't any. They weren't really Department of State employees. That came later. This was just a task force. But it eventually became an actual agency. Later on, around 1942, the Bureau of Secret Intelligence changed its name to the Office of Security. Or I should actually probably highlight that before that, it was transferred to the authority of the U.S. Department of State Bureau of Management. In other words, it was transferred from the direct authority of the Department of State to the authority of the Bureau of Management under the Department of State. So it became a division, in other words. But yeah, in 1942, it became the Office of Security. This was essentially because of the Second World War. They changed their name to better suit their role during that Second World War, in combating again intelligence threats. This was around the time that they began focusing on actually protecting important diplomats. They did also do that during their founding, but it became much more serious throughout the years. Later on, in around 1982, sorry, my computer must shut off there. Later on, around 1982. The Office of Security was transferred to the authority of the Bureau of the newly found Bureau of Diplomatic Security, and changed its name to the Diplomatic Security Service. This was shortly after the actually no. I got the date wrong. It was in 1985 that they changed their name to the Diplomatic Security Service and were transferred to the authority of the Bureau of Diplomatic Security under the Department of State. Anyways, this was shortly after the U.S. Embassy bombings. I forgot where exactly it was that occurred, but I know that is really why they really changed to the Diplomatic Security Service. Again, it was really to suit their role in protecting diplomats. because I mean, that you know what embassies are, right? They are composed of multiple diplomats, and basically the point of the diplomatic security service was to protect those diplomats, so that's why they changed their name. Nowadays they've expanded their responsibilities. I mean, nowadays they investigate passport fraud. They do much more than they did back then. Again, similar to that of the Secret Service's evolution. So yeah, that's pretty much it for their history. Diplomatic Security Service special agents are 1811s with authority to carry firearms, issue warrantless arrests, and carry out arrests anywhere throughout the United States. If you don't know, oh yeah, and 1811 is essentially a federal criminal investigator. The term is commonly used by the U.S. Office of Personnel Management. It's kind of like a nickname or a code. But anyways, I mean, the U.S. Office of Personnel Management basically has code names for different positions within the federal government, and basically an 1811 refers to a federal criminal investigator. But anyways, what was I saying? So yeah, when it comes to their jurisdiction, they have domestic-wide jurisdiction throughout the United States and its territories to protect diplomatic officials, investigate threats towards diplomatic officials or activities or missions, and to investigate visa and passport fraud. So yeah, again, they also have law enforcement authority in multiple other countries. This is just their, their legal this is just their legal jurisdiction within the United States, general legal jurisdiction of the federal government. So yeah. Diplomatic Security Service special agents undergo a total of approximately 30 weeks of training. The specific location, however, varies based upon the course. And what I mean by that is basically there are 3 courses Diplomatic Security Service special agents go through. It's all a part of their greater training. The first course is known as the specialized operations course, and takes approximately 3 weeks. It is located at the it's located at the National Foreign Affairs Training Center in Washington, D.C. The second course is known as the Criminal Investigators Training Program, which is located at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia, and takes approximately 12 weeks. The third and last course is known as the in-house training program, and takes approximately 13 weeks. And the reason why it's actually known as the in-house training program is because it takes place at the Diplomatic Security Service's headquarters in some city in Virginia, I forgot. But yeah, those are the 3 courses. When it comes to what they actually go through during that training, it all varies based upon the course. They are trained in a variety of tactics. A lot of what they are trained in is similar to that of the Secret Service. Sorry, my computer almost shut off there. Diplomatic Security Service special agents, again, like I said earlier, a lot of the operations they conduct and activities they do are very similar to that of the Secret Service. So I would say the Secret Service has a slightly more intensive, actually probably much more intensive training, just because, think about it, they're protecting the president. They need much more training and trust for that position. But their training is still the same concept. Some tactics diplomatic security service special agents are trained in include protective tactics, investigative tactics, firearm tactics, physical tactics, vehicle tactics. Let's see. They also get written exams. They have to go through, I believe they have to go through a polygraph test, but that's not really part of their training. They mean they yeah, it's a lot of that vehicle tactics and all. I mean, photography, that is also another one. Arresting and detaining tactics. You also go through running courses and other tactics. But yeah, that's really it for their training. The Diplomatic Security Service reports to the Assistant Secretary of State for Diplomatic Security, who leads the Bureau of Diplomatic Security, who anyways reports to the Secretary of State, because again, the Bureau of Diplomatic Security falls under the Department of State, so therefore it reports to the head of the Department of State, who is the Secretary of State. And anyways, because the Department of State falls under the executive branch, therefore the head of the Department of State reports to the head of the executive branch, which is the president. So, and in other terms, the Diplomatic Security Service reports to the Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of State for Diplomatic Security, who reports to the Secretary of State, who reports to the President of the United States. The Diplomatic Security Service and the U.S. Secret Service are two very similar but of course distinct agencies. Today I will be focusing on their similarities. So some of the main similarities between the U.S. Secret Service and Diplomatic Security Service are that both are civilian staffed investigative federal law enforcement agencies. Both are primarily responsible for protecting domestic and foreign officials. Both protect important dignitaries. Both investigate types of federal fraud. Both train at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. Both protect their department secretary. I could go on. The list could go on. They are two very similar agencies. In fact, the Diplomatic Security Service is actually often referred to as the Secret Service of the Department of State. And whoever invented that phrase is actually a genius, because they basically are. If you've ever seen the Secret Service, or at least heard of it, you gotta have noticed the similarities between the Diplomatic Security Service and the Secret Service. The Diplomatic Security Service is basically the Secret Service, but for diplomats. Both protect very important officials. Again, both investigate types of fraud. They're very similar. If you compare them side by side, they're actually very similar. Anyways, that's pretty much it for the similarities. Are the Diplomatic Security Service and the Bureau of Diplomatic Security the same? This is a very common question. Many people will mistake them for being the same. Let me put it out to you right now. They are not the same. They are separate. The Diplomatic Security Service, on one hand, is the primary law enforcement and operational component of the Bureau of Diplomatic Security. They're the ones that actually conduct most of their on-field diplomatic security operations. The Bureau of Diplomatic Security is more of a broader term, or it's a cabinet level agency, like the DEA. It's a cabinet level agency. It focuses on it is not let me put it out to you. The Bureau of Diplomatic Security is not a law enforcement agency in and of itself. The Diplomatic Security Service is. The Bureau of Diplomatic Security is just it's responsible for protecting diplomats. If you're talking about what it actually does itself, it basically oversees the operations conducted by its components, such as the Diplomatic Security Service. They basically, in other words, the Diplomatic Security Service is the on-field component of the Bureau of Diplomatic Security, whereas the Bureau of Diplomatic Security is just more of a it just oversees their operations. It's like the umbrella agency. Anyways, hope that made sense to you. Yeah.